What's going on, everybody? Ronan here. We got a lot to cover today, and what I'm coming to call the Pokemon Forever arc for What If Indigo Champion Ash challenged the Johto League. But before we get into that, let's give a special shout out to Silver Heart Soul, as they're one of the sponsors on my current patron list. But before we get into anything else, let's do the usual YouTube stuff. Take a look at this analytical stat bar right here, and don't forget to drop a like, a comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to turn on notifications so that way we can feed the algorithm as much as possible. But with all of that being said, let's get into What If Indigo Champion Ash challenged the Johto League, Season 2, Part 9. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's episode with Team Gary as they arrive in Mohagany Town. There's quite a few things that they intend to take care of here, as both Ethan and Gary have a gym battle, and the time-displaced boy known as Sammy also wants to see if the person he was originally intending to see back in his own time is still here, alive in Mohagany Town, considering it's been about 50 years when he was supposed to meet this individual. As the group stands atop the hill that leads down into the small village, Ethan declares that he's going to be the first one to battle the gym. However, Gary stops the young trainer, as he reminds him that Sammy wants to go see this individual first, so that'll be their first stop, with Gary telling Sammy to lead the way. However, the young boy tells Gary that it's okay, they can take care of whatever they need to first. After all, he's just a traveler. But Gary reminds Sammy that they're all travelers, and they're kind of a team at this point, so it wouldn't hurt for them to make a stop, especially considering he's the outcast here, and if it'll make him feel a little bit more at ease, then Gary's all for it. This brings a smile to Sammy's face as him, Marina, Ethan, and Gary head down into the village. While Mohagany Town is officially declared a town, it's really more like a sparsely populated area, as most of the houses sit up in the rural hills of the village, considering this is more of a mountainous area, and it tends to get really cold when nightfall, and when winter's around, everything freezes over, turning into a winter wonderland. However, the sight of the town does bring some comfort to Sammy, as according to his map, not really anything has changed since he left his own time. It's like this place is untouched by the modern world, and that brings him some sort of comfort in the moment when he recognizes things. However, when they finally reach their destination on the map, this is going to be a cause for the boy's heart to drop, as the house that used to stand here is no longer here, instead replaced by a couple of trees and some grass. This causes the boy to hang his head a little bit, as he doesn't really know what else to do, to which Marina asks exactly who was Sammy supposed to meet here, to which the young boy explains that there was a high-class trainer that lived here in Mohagany Town, and he was in a tournament. Unfortunately, him and his Pokemon were against a very powerful fire type, and they were about to lose. In order to protect his Pokemon from it, this trainer had jumped in the way, taken the attack run on, and in doing so, suffered third-degree burns. After that event, the trainer lost, and I was asked by the herbal specialist in Equitique City to bring a secret remedy here that was made of strong herbs that helps counteract most statuses like burns or paralysis. It really is a cure-all and can save anything, Sammy says as he pulls it out of his bag to show Team Gary. Unfortunately, it looks like that trainer no longer lives here, and now this is no longer needed. This is where Ethan tries to cheer Sammy up. However, he's interrupted by the stern voice of someone who demands to know why they are here on this ground. Turning, Team Gary sees a very old man with a surly look across his face. Again, the man demands to know why they are here. What business do these kids have at this place? This is where Sammy goes on to explain to the old man that he was coming here to see someone that was in need of some medicine. However, it looks like he missed his window. He then asks if this old man knows where this person is. However, the old man says that that person that Sammy's looking for has been gone a long time. So it's best that they move on too, as he doesn't like outsiders in his town. The man's expression and delivery of these words are just cold. Like he doesn't care about the feelings of anybody involved. And this doesn't really sit well with Ethan, as he declares to the old man that they have business in this town aside from trying to see this person. After all, Mohagany Town holds one of the official Johto gyms, so him and Gary won't be leaving until they have a chance to battle and beat the gym leader. However, this doesn't sway the old man, merely telling the group that they need to handle their business and then get out of his city. He doesn't like outsiders, and the longer that they stay, the less welcome they're gonna be before he walks walks off, leaving Team Gary standing there stunned by the sheer coldness of the man. That night at the Pokemon Center, Ethan and Marina are off training together, as Ethan is going to be the first one to challenge the gym, so he wants to make sure his Pokemon are ready. So while they're outside, Gary has a chance to talk with Sammy, as they are discussing the events that have happened, and Gary brings up one very relevant question. How is Sammy taking it that he's never going to be able to return to his home? After all, being in a place that is so familiar, yet so different than what he's used to, has to be a shock to the system. Sammy tells Gary that he's still getting used to it. He's not really sure on what he's going to do. Everyone he knew from his time is gone. His parents, his siblings, everyone. He doesn't really know what he can do, but he does know that he has to do the best he can with what he has. This is where Gary pipes up, telling Sammy that, well, he's always welcome to travel with Team Gary. And after the Johto League, he can come back to Pallet Town to meet his grandfather. He sure would like a chance to talk with somebody like him. This is where Sammy raises the question. You guys keep talking about this Johto League and this gym challenge. What is it exactly? Gary goes on to explain everything about the Johto League and the gym challenge. He talks about how he competed in the Kanto version of this, and he did manage to do pretty well for himself, but he got knocked out before he could make it to the main event. However, his friend, Ash, well, he demonstrated a resilience and a wanting and was able to make it all the way to the top, taking the crown as Kanto's champion, the first to happen in a very long time. Well, this guy Ash sounds like a very strong trainer, Sammy says. Gary tells him that he is, and he knows that one day Gary and him will actually have to battle, and in that time they're going to be able to let each other know exactly how they feel as friends and rivals, and the two continue talking as the night fades on. The next morning, Ethan and Marina are up bright and early, Ethan being unable to contain his excitement at his possibility of getting his 7th gym badge. While Marina is against going to the gym by themselves, she understands that there's no changing Ethan's mind, so she decides to head with him to keep an eye on Ethan to make sure he doesn't get into any trouble. It isn't long before the duo find themselves at the door of the Mohagany Town gym. While on the outside it looks pretty standard compared to most of the other gyms in Johto, on the inside it's a whole nother story, as the entire inside of this gym is frozen over in ice, causing Ethan to catch a chill the moment the doors open. This is where they are greeted by the gym attendant, who asks them if they are here for a battle, to which Ethan responds he is. He's challenging for his 7th gym badge. Well, right this way, the attendant says, as he leads them deeper into the gym. It isn't long until the gym leader comes into view, which causes Ethan's mouth to drop, as this is the last person that he expected to see at the gym. Back over with Gary and Sammy, the two are at the Pokemon Center as they're finishing up their morning meal. This is where Sammy asks what happened to Ethan and Marina, to which Gary says that Ethan probably got a little ahead of himself and decided to head to the gym early. He does that sometimes. Well, wouldn't you want to go support your friend? Sammy says, to which Gary responds, while I do want to be there for him, Ethan's gotten to the point to where he is his own trainer now, and he doesn't need me to be there to hold his hand. In the beginning, Ethan needed a lot of guidance, but he's grown strong over the journey that we've had together, so I'm confident that he'll be able to handle himself. However, we can still pop in, considering that I'm going to want a chance to battle the gym as well, and it may not be too bad to have some insight on the gym and the type of Pokemon they use. What do you mean, type of Pokemon? Sammy inquires. This is where Gary tells Sammy that all of the gyms across the world specialize in a singular type. It's a handicap that they give themselves, and their opponents must overcome it. If they can, then they'll be awarded a gym badge, just like these, to which Gary shows Sammy all of the gym badges that he's collected across the Johto region. You see, I only need 2 more. This one here in Mohagany Town, and then the next one that happens to be in Blackthorn City. Once we earn those 2 gym badges, then we'll qualify for the Johto League and a chance to become a regional champion. So this is a pretty big deal, Sammy says. It is. Most kids that turn 10 want to be a Pokemon trainer, and they want a chance to battle in high-level competitions. So they travel the world, challenging different regions. Like I said before, I've already challenged my home region of Kanto. Now I'm out here in Johto. After this, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can tell you my journey is far from over, regardless of what happens here in this region. What Gary has told Sammy has gotten him a little bit fired up, and he wants a chance to go see this whole gym experience in person, so he asks Gary if they can go and watch Ethan's gym battle. With a smile on his face, the old boy tells Sammy that he was waiting for him to take an interest in it, and the two head off to the Mohagany Town gym. Back at the gym, Ethan is trying to pick his jaw up off the ground, as the person he is staring at is the same crotchety old man that they ran into at the the prior day. Wait, you're the gym leader? Why wouldn't you tell us that instead of making us think you were just a normal person that was angry at the world? Because you didn't ask, the old man replies. Where's your friend? I thought he wanted to challenge the gym as well. The quicker you annoying kids battle with me is the quicker that you can all get out of my town. However, Ethan just tells the old man that Gary's not here right now. He'll be his only challenger for the time being. So let's get down to business, considering that seems to be the only thing that the old man cares about. So, got the fire, do we? Well, don't worry. I'll quickly put that out with my ice types. My name is Price, leader of the Mohagany Town Gym, and I accept your challenge. This will be a 3-on-3, and I will not be allowed substitutions. The battle will be over when one side's Pokemon are all unable to battle. Do you accept these terms, young man? Ethan nods, feeling like he's in the perfect position to teach this old man a lesson, considering he just announced that he's an ice-type trainer, which in Ethan's mind means he's got the perfect counter to it, his good old buddy and starter, Typhlosion. Walking to his side of the battlefield, Ethan accepts these terms, telling Price that he is ready to start whenever he is, as he sends Typhlosion in, not even giving Price the chance to choose his first Pokemon. To be that young and dumb again. I truly don't miss it, Price says. By you tipping your hand like that makes it so much easier for me to put you out of my misery. Dugong, you're up! The sea lion hits the battlefield ready for its trainer's command, as Ethan takes the time to try and get to know what it can do through its Pokédex. This is where it reveals that Dugong is not only an ice type, but it's also half water. So this could make things a bit difficult for Typhlosion. However, Ethan has faith in his buddy, as it roars proudly, ready to start the battle. Price gives Ethan the first move, telling the young man to be careful in what he chooses. To which Ethan responds, don't worry, me and my Typhlosion know exactly what we're doing. Use Flame Wheel! Surrounding itself in a ball of flames, Typhlosion bolts down the field in the direction towards Dugong. However, Price has a very simple yet effective counter against this, as he calls for Dugong to use Rain Dance. Beginning to elegantly glide across the ice, Dugong begins to summon clouds above the gym battlefield as rain slowly starts to drizzle down. This is unfortunate for Typhlosion, as by the time it reaches Dugong, its flame is all but out, turning its Flame Wheel into just a normal tackle that has little to no effect against Dugong. This is where Price is easily able to counter and show just how outmatched this boy is when he orders Dugong to use a Whirlpool. Suddenly, a spiral of water shoots up from beneath Typhlosion, trapping it as a current torrents around the fire badger at a high rate of speed, trapping it in this vortex of endless water. Ethan tries to call to his starter, however Typhlosion is unresponsive, so he does the next best thing he can do, trying to recall it. However, the high speed of the waves makes this impossible, as every time he tries to activate the Pokeball, it's unable to penetrate the water shield, preventing Typhlosion from coming back. Price just smiles. You see what I said about jumping the gun? You have made things all too easy for me, as Price orders Dugong to use an Ice Beam on the Whirlpool. Doing so, the water type begins to freeze the vortex at its base, slowly working its way all the way up to the top. Before they know it, there's a giant Typhlosion sickle right in the middle of the gym. Ethan tries to call to the fire starter, however, it's unresponsive, crystallized in a prison. This gives Price the easy opening that he saw from the beginning of the battle, as he orders Dugong to use a Surf. Summoning a giant wave, the sea lion rides it as it crashes down on Typhlosion, knocking it out and giving Price the first victory in this 3-on-3 battle. Ethan can do nothing but stand there speechless for a brief moment as he contemplates what just happened. Typhlosion is his best Pokemon, and it was so easily taken out. Recalling his starter, he's not really sure what he can do, as Price stands patiently waiting on the other side of the battlefield. So, are you going to make your next choice? I thought you had this on lock, from what you young people say. However, Ethan just stares at Price, trying to figure out his game. This man is cold, cruel, and calculating. He saw that Ethan was going to lose that first battle before Ethan had even chosen his Pokemon. So he decides that he has to be smarter about his next choice, deciding to fight Price on his own terms, choosing Sneasel as his next choice in this battle. Oh, so you have an ice type of your own. Well, it won't make a difference. Unfortunately, it looks like your Sneasel is undertrained, so this will be an easy win as well. But just to prove that I'm not wrong, I will give you the first move. Once again, wanting to take what he thinks is a free opening, Ethan chooses to go big, ordering Sneasel in with the Slash. While the ice type is able to maneuver the ice battlefield fairly well, and it does get in close to Dugong landing the Slash, what Ethan doesn't realize is this was all a setup, as it dawns on him too late that Dugong doesn't have the ability to move at rapid paces like Sneasel does. So Price wanted it within striking range, as Ethan finds out the hard way with Price ordering another Whirlpool that traps Sneasel, just like Typhlosion. You're too brash, young man. You jump in head first, not thinking about things. It never stopped to think that I gave you the first move because it would benefit me, and now it's going to cost you your second Pokemon in this battle. However, Price does something a little bit different this time, as he's not ordering Dewgong to use Ice Beam on the Whirlpool, freezing it like he did with Typhlosion, which brings a thought maybe that tactic was set up specifically to counter fire types, which means they might still have a chance. Instead of trying to recall Sneasel, he does his best to call to it. While the orders of his trainer are a bit muffled, Sneasel can make out what it's saying, so its eyes begin to glow as ice begins to form on the tip of its claws as it begins slashing through the entire Whirlpool, little by little and slowly but surely until it makes its way to the edge of the Whirlpool. Before Price knows it, Sneasel is able to pop out, much to his surprise. Once Sneasel lands on the battlefield and the Whirlpool dissipates because it's no longer inside, it's revealed what Sneasel did to break out of the Whirlpool. It had used an Ice-type move to turn its claws into paddles, allowing it to pull itself out of the Whirlpool, which is a very clever tactic even for Price. But one lucky move, a battle does not win, and you'll have to do better than that, as he orders Dewgong to use Ice Beam. However, Ethan has the perfect counter for this, as he orders Sneasel to use Agility to increase its speed. Doing so, Sneasel is able to quickly dodge the Ice Beam, and this is where Ethan begins to develop a strategy. He has to keep Sneasel from afar and build up his speed as much as possible. The only way they're going to be able to take this thing down is by hit and run tactics. So this is exactly what he does. As Price orders Whirlpools, Ice Beams, and Surfs, Ethan just counters with Agility after Agility until it becomes to the point that Sneasel is just a blur on the battlefield. Then Ethan decides to go on the offensive as he orders Sneasel to rush in with a slash attack. However, Price is ready for this as he orders another Whirlpool in an attempt to catch the Dark type. However, Sneasel is just too fast, barely managing to outpace the Vortex as it hits Dewgong with a slash, causing a critical hit with the speed that was behind it. Then it quickly retreats out of its personal space. This is where Ethan knows that Price isn't going to let them do that again, so he's going to have to come up with something different. Then it hits him. Price is going to try to raise that Whirlpool like a defense again, so he's going to have to use it to his advantage. Once again, he orders Sneasel in, to which Price, with his years of battling experience, now understands the timing and when he's going to have to fire this Whirlpool in order to counter. Doing so, Price is able to get the correct timing down as the Whirlpool begins to form at the feet of Sneasel as it passes over the terrain, entering Dewgong's space. However, Ethan had the counter ready for this as he orders Sneasel to use Icy Wind on the Whirlpool as it starts to form. This causes it to freeze before it can fully form, and slightly has a benefit to Sneasel as it creates an ice dish, allowing Sneasel to use it to increase his speed and slingshot itself towards Dewgong with the slash attack ready. And in a moment of flashes, Dewgong is dropped as Sneasel finally gets Ethan a win, putting him on the board. This is a bit of surprise to Price. He didn't expect this young man to be able to wield an ice type like this. However, it's just a momentary setback, as he doesn't really show any emotion towards the situation, merely recalling Dewgong as he readies his next Pokeball. Shelder, you're up! The little clam emerges from its Pokeball, sticking out its tongue, almost to tease and taunt both Ethan and Sneasel. However, it's far less menacing than what that Dewgong was, causing Ethan to think that it can't be as strong as the first Pokemon. However, he knows that this is the wrong type of thoughts, as if Price didn't choose this thing first, that must mean that it has a certain ability and a certain way to get him back in the driver's seat of this battle and having a counter towards anything that Ethan could have come up with. However, there's one thing that Sneasel has going for it, the fact that its speed has been maxed out, so Ethan tries to use this to his advantage as he tells Sneasel to rush in with the feint attack, knowing that no matter what Price tries, he won't be able to evade the dark type move. However, Price isn't trying to evade, he wants this, as once Sneasel enters the personal space of Shelder, he orders one simple move in Clamp. Just as Sneasel takes a swipe at Shelder, the clam clamps down on its claw, holding it in position as it's revealed that Shelder has frozen itself to the gym floor since the rain has stopped, making it impossible for Sneasel to pull away. Quickly, Ethan orders a slash attack from Sneasel's other hand, to which the dark type does so. However, due to the high defense of Shelder and the fact that Price is calling for a reflect, this does little to no damage to the first stage, causing Sneasel to flail about, trying to do whatever it can to break free. However, nothing it does works, and Ethan is running out of time fast, because if this keeps on for too long, then Sneasel's gonna end up hurting itself, or even worse, its arm won't be able to be used in the battle, which means he may have to forfeit it so that way it doesn't hurt itself too much. However, there is one thing that comes to Ethan's mind, and it's a technique that he used when he was trying to escape the vortex of water. This is where he tells Sneasel to calm down. He has an idea. Use Icy Wind on its claw once more, then to use the hook on its claw to pry open Shelder and free itself. Luckily, Sneasel is able to calm down just enough to do so, allowing it to escape back to its side of the battlefield, leaving Shelter sitting there completely unscathed about the altercation, almost like nothing ever happened. This is where Ethan realizes that he's going to have to change up the game plan, so he decides to recall Sneasel for now, as he's going to need a little bit more brute force in order to get through. Luckily, I have just what I need, Ethan thinks to himself, as he pulls a Pokeball from his belt. Without hesitation, he declares, "Lairon, I choose you!" The Steel-type bulldozer emerges from its ball with a cracking thud on the ice battlefield that shatters the ice right beneath its feet as it slams down. So, the brute force option, Bryce says. Well, I gotta tell you, this strategy is much better than the last one. So, go ahead, try whatever you want. I can tell you right now, it won't work. However, there's another problem that is at work here, as Ethan hasn't really used Lairon that much. They've had a few battles here and there, but there's one thing that is definite about the Steel type. It is stubborn, and sometimes it's hard to get on the same page with Ethan. However, he's hoping that it'll hold out just long enough to bring the win over this Shelter. Alright, Lairon, it's time to do this. Use Rock Blast! The stubborn Steel type does heed its trainer's command, as it begins to fire rock volleys across the battlefield that strike Shelter in succession. 1, then 2, then 3. The force of these 3 shots is enough to break Shelter from its perch, and causes the 4th one to miss as Shelter slides across the ice field back in the direction of Price. However, the old man isn't just going to sit and let this happen, as he orders Shelter to use an Icy Wind that shoots across the battlefield and connects with Lairon. While this doesn't cause a lot of damage, it does have one glaring side effect, as Lairon begins to noticeably move a little bit slower as it turns to face Shelter again, almost to say how dare the little clam defy it. But Ethan realizes they don't have time for this, so he orders Lairon back in with a takedown. While Lairon is successfully able to begin charging across the ice battlefield due to its sheer weight allowing it to crack the ice and grip into the gym floor, Shelter is easily able to evade this technique due to Lairon being slower and it using an Icy Wind to kind of propel itself across the ice battlefield, kind of like it's skating. This is where it realizes that Lairon isn't going to be able to make a physical connection. They're going to have to attack from a range, but he's going to have to get in close for his next move if he hopes that Rock Blast is going to be able to cause any serious damage. So he orders Lairon to rush in once more. They have to get as close as possible. However, Price just simply continues the strategy that's been working, evading with Icy Wind, causing Lairon to just barely miss Shelter. However, this isn't what Ethan was trying, as he just needed Lairon by Shelter, as he orders a metal sound. Lairon fires away as the ear-piercing sound consumes Shelter, dropping some of its special defense, and it just so happens this is at the point when the Reflect begins to fade. Realizing that he is now on the back foot, Price does what he can to try to mitigate this damage. However, Lairon is quick to react, as Ethan has ordered a Rock Blast that connects with Shelter for a full 5 hits, sending it airborne before it crashes down at Price's feet with spirals in its eyes, unable to battle. It is at this point that Gary and Sammy both arrive at the gym, as they silently walk up to the bleachers and sit down watching Ethan's battle. They got to see the final moments as Lairon was able to drop Shelter. "So this is what you call a gym battle?" Sammy inquires, to which Gary responds, "Yes, it's a test of skill, and right now Ethan is facing down a nice type specialist. However, I don't quite know the name of this trainer yet, but I'll get a chance to battle him tomorrow, after Ethan has potentially earned a gym badge here. Unfortunately though, if he does lose this one, that means he's going to have to come back for a rematch, and we may be in Mohagany Town longer than that old man wants us to be." Very interesting, Sammy thinks to himself, as we fade back to the battlefield. Price isn't exactly the happiest person right now. He was expecting Shelter to do more, and the fact that it couldn't quite earn a victory over Lairon or Sneasel has made the old man a bit sour about this battle. However, his final Pokemon is going to be able to end Ethan and bring the victory that the old man so feels that he deserves. With the recall of Shelter, Price declares, "Jinx, your time to battle." The Ice Psychic type hits the field as it is shaking and dancing, excited to finally have a chance at battling. However, Price quickly shuts this down, telling it that it has no time for foolishness. She is his last choice, so they have a lot of work to do. It is at this moment that happy expression across Jinx's face changes as it appears more menacing, ready to take on any challenge that Price and it have to face. However, Jimmy doesn't want to make the same mistakes that he's made at the start of each battle, so he decides to play it cautiously, using his Pokédex to find out whatever he can about this ice type. Luckily for him, he does, as it becomes revealed that this ice type is actually half psychic as well. So he decides to recall Lairon for territory is much more favorable Sneasel as it pops back to the battlefield, considering its dark type is completely immune to any psychic type moves that Jinx may have in her arsenal. The battle begins and it quickly becomes apparent for why Price saved Jinx for last, as Ethan orders a feint attack to try and attack the psychic type and deal a massive blow. It is quickly stopped in its tracks when Price counters this with a lovely kiss. As Jinx plants its lips on Sneasel, the move sends the dark type off into La La Land, which isn't favorable for Ethan as this was his best chance to beat Jinx. I don't know why you thought I wouldn't have a counter to dark types. Jinx is one of my most powerful Pokemon, and I am completely aware of her secondary weaknesses. So for you to battle like that is really short-sighted, as he orders Jinx to use a body slam on Sneasel. The blonde-haired humanoid quickly catches air as it jumps as high as it possibly can before throwing all of its weight down on Sneasel with a loud thud that causes a little cloud of dust and ice to burst from the impact zone. As Jinx pulls itself up, it reveals that Sneasel is no longer able to battle, making this match a 1v1. Recalling his ice type, Ethan is a little bit down. He was really hoping that Sneasel could have done a little bit more in that battle. However, he can't dwell on the past. He knows that he only has one path to victory, and he's holding it in his hand. Lairon, you're up! The steel type emerges from its ball once again with a crackling thud on the ice battlefield. Ethan tells Lairon that they're gonna have to be careful. Jinx was able to beat Sneasel in just 2 moves, and everything in this battle is riding on it, so we have to set aside our differences for just this moment. The steel type looks back at its trainer and then to its opponent. However, it doesn't really acknowledge what Ethan was saying, more along the lines just signifying that it's ready to battle. Ethan hopes that this isn't a bad thing, as this could go one of 2 ways. Either Lairon will listen to him, or it won't. Up in the stands with our other 2 heroes, Sammy is questioning Gary about Lairon and why it doesn't listen to Ethan, to which the Oak Boy fills him in, telling Sammy that Lairon is a recent catch and it was once a leader of a large herd. However, Ethan was forced to battle it with his Weepinbell when they had wandered into his territory. While Weepinbell did get hurt, Ethan was able to capture it during the battle, to which didn't really sit well with the steel type, and it's been a bit abrasive ever since. While it does get along with most of our Pokemon, it does have a bit of an issue with Weepinbell, and sometimes it chooses not to listen to Ethan. So we're just gonna have to see if this is one of those times, as we fade to the battlefield with Price giving the first order, telling Jinx to use a Psychic. At once, its eyes begin to glow as a psychic energy envelops Lairon, slowly lifting it off the ground. Knowing this could be a problem, Jimmy orders Lairon to use a Rock Blast. However, Lairon is stunned from being lifted off the ground. The sheer shock of the whole moment has it unable to react to Ethan's call, as it is then spun around, then slammed back into the battlefield. While its armored hide prevented most of the damage due to the battlefield being ice, this was more about sending a message. Jinx is going to take this thing out if it doesn't get on the same page with Ethan, and this was proven by their interaction right here, when it couldn't hear Ethan due to its own fear of being airborne. Working its way back to all fours, Lairon shakes off the snow dust as it readies itself for its next battle. This is where Ethan tells Lairon they need to be ready, stay sturdy, and stay strong. Wait for them to come to us. However, Price isn't gonna give them much time to interact, as he orders Jinx in with another lovely kiss, hoping to close this out as quickly as possible. But in this moment of potential doom, Ethan sees a chance for an opportunity, and he tells Lairon to be ready. This is gonna all come down to their timing. While the steel type doesn't like the fact that it's gonna have to trust this human again in order to win this battle, it dislikes the fact that it was airborne even more, so it chooses to do as it's told, waiting for Ethan to give the command. This is where Jinx begins to close in inch by inch as it tries to land its lips right on the face of Lairon. Jinx needed to be close in order for this to be effective, as he orders Lairon to use a Rock Blast. Now unable to dodge, a boulder forms in the face of Jinx, intercepting its kiss, not allowing it to connect with Lairon, as it is pelted in the skull with all of these rocks. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, with each boulder getting bigger than the last, until Jinx is sent sliding back to her side of the battlefield. While this wasn't enough to knock out the ice type, it was enough to cause some serious damage, as all of those hits were practically point blank. This is where Price sees that Ethan has taken a page out of his playbook, trying to copy the strategy that he used with Shelder. Maybe this kid isn't so dumb after all, the old man thinks to himself. However, this time Price has little time to do so, as Ethan is on the attack again, as he orders Lairon to use another Rock Blast. Realizing Realizing that he has to do something to counter this, Price tells Jinx to use Ice Punch on the floor to create small little pillars to try and detour the rocks from actually hitting her. This does work, nullifying the attack, bringing things to a stalemate. Realizing that she can't get close and order another attack like the rock blast straight to the skull, Price decides to have Jinx battle from a distance by ordering another psychic. Once again, Laron begins to slowly levitate in the air. However, Ethan has a counter this time, as he tells Laron to use Rock Blast off the ground. Doing so, this forces the steel type into the air, as it slowly but surely breaks the psychic control over it, and the actual plan of Ethan was revealed, as Laron was sent into the air at an angle, and just as it begins to come down, it becomes clear where it's going to land, as its full weight is brought down on top of Jinx, as a loud thud can be heard and ice cracks when it lands, forming a cloud of ice and dust that shoots up, blocking all the view of everyone in the gym. Moments later, a rustling can be heard as the dust begins to settle and Laron starts to stir, moving off of Jinx, revealing a very unconscious ice type, bringing the battle to an end and making Ethan the victor, as he has officially won his 7th badge of the Johto region. Ethan begins to celebrate with Laron. He knows that they're not always on the same page, but that was a great battle, and he hopes that they can have many more like it in the future. However, Laron isn't much for celebrating, as it simply just turns away, not wanting to engage in any festivities with its trainer, while Price checks on Jinx to make sure that it's alright, then presenting Ethan with his badge, telling the young boy that he did fight well. However, his technique is unrefined, and if he wishes to go farther, then he's going to have to find a battle style that suits him. Now we find ourselves out in the forests of Johto, as Jesse, Meowth, the Marauder, and the old Pokemon poacher are in the spot where he ran into Celebi 50 years prior. This is where Sneasel picks up the movement of something. Jesse and Meowth are a bit freaked out, to which the Marauder is annoyed that they were the only ones to respawn from Goldenrod City. How could he have gotten stuck with such weaklings? However, there is little time to address this, as there is a much more pressing matter in the form of them possibly being under attack. So in order to assist Sneasel, the Marauder sends in Scizor to help it, but things quickly come to a head when it's revealed that it's Meditite, the same one that had been chasing Team Gary and Houndour. Stand down, the Marauder says. It is not a threat. However, the Marauder is very displeased that it has returned without Houndour. You know the consequences for returning empty-handed, the Rocket Leader says as he orders Sneasel and Scizor to dish out some punishment. However, temporal vortexes begin to open at random around him. This is where Meowth begins to feel something as he peeks behind a log, and there lies Celebi, face down, gravely injured, as the Marauder appears over his shoulder with a dark ball in hand. And this is where we are going to end things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this part? Do you think that Ethan had a compelling gym battle against Price? What exactly is Sammy's connection to Mohagany Town? And how do you feel about the revelation that the Meditite that has been hunting Team Gary has been working for the Marauder the entire time? And what exactly did the Marauder have in store for that Houndour that Gary ended up catching? And of course, now that the Marauder has Celebi in his possession, what are his plans for the mythical creature? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we had for today's video. I really appreciate you guys stopping by to watch all the way to the end, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. If you guys really enjoy my content, consider following me on some of my other platforms like Discord, where you can get to know other people who are interested in what ifs, or on Twitter, where I post sometimes behind the scenes updates. Or if you want to help the channel grow a little bit extra, why don't you consider donating like the people right here have, as whatever you could offer could help us get to a larger audience by helping us get new videos done, or some of the projects that we more custom art is getting kind of expensive. So we want to make sure that we have the funds to do that. But with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I will see you in the next video.